What if I told you that the most powerful threat to the US isn't Russia or China, but a single man in the Middle East? Mohammed bin Salman is rewriting the rules of global power. While Washington fights to maintain control, he's secretly making deals that could cripple the US dollar, reshape the world economy, and even change the balance of military power forever. And here's the real shocker. Donald Trump might be the only person who can stop him or help him rise even further. This isn't just another political move. It's a high-stakes game that could redefine who controls the world. And by the end of this video, you'll understand exactly why world leaders are terrified of what comes next. The most shocking part? It's already happening, and no one is talking about it. The mystery behind MBS, what is he really planning? For decades, Saudi Arabia was seen as a stable US ally, rich in oil but predictable in politics. But under Mohammed bin Salman, MBS, everything has changed. His bold, unpredictable moves have sent shockwaves through Washington, Moscow, and Beijing. MBS isn't just another Middle Eastern leader. He's a disruptor with a vision that could shift global power forever. Some say he wants to make Saudi Arabia the next great superpower, while others believe he's playing a much bigger game, one that could upend the entire world order. His massive investments, secret negotiations, and military expansion are making world leaders nervous. But the scariest part? His plan is already in motion. And at the center of it all is a $500 billion project that's more than just a city. It's a power move that could change the balance of global influence. A vision bigger than any empire. The $500 billion dream. MBS isn't thinking about the next 10 years. He's thinking about the next 100. His most ambitious project? NEOM, a futuristic megacity being built from scratch, with AI control systems, flying taxis, and even a man-made moon. On the surface, NEOM looks like an ultra-modern tech utopia, a flashy way to move Saudi Arabia away from its oil dependence. But intelligence analysts see something deeper. This isn't just a city, it's a global power play. NEOM is designed to attract the world's biggest companies, top scientists, and cutting-edge research. The goal? Make Saudi Arabia the epicenter of technology, finance, and global decision-making, rivaling Silicon Valley, Wall Street, and even Washington, D.C. If it works, Saudi Arabia could reshape the future. But that's not the only reason superpowers are worried, because MBS is also forming dangerous new alliances that could shift the world order. NEOM isn't just a city, it's a strategic weapon. It's being positioned as a global tech hub, but behind the scenes, it could be much more than that. Saudi Arabia has already secured investments from China, Russia, and several European nations, creating a network of influence that directly challenges US global leadership. The AI research, surveillance technology, and cyber capabilities being developed in NEOM could make Saudi Arabia one of the most powerful digital forces on the planet. But here's the real concern. Who will control the technology inside NEOM? If Saudi Arabia cuts deals with China's AI firms or Russia's cyber intelligence, the US could be facing a massive geopolitical threat. And it's not just about technology. MBS is playing both sides, balancing his ties with Washington while quietly aligning with America's biggest rivals. The secret alliances no one saw coming. For decades, Saudi Arabia's loyalty was clear. It stood with the US. But MBS is changing the game, and Washington is losing its grip. Instead of relying solely on American support, Saudi Arabia is strengthening ties with China and Russia. Beijing is now the biggest buyer of Saudi oil, and Moscow is selling cutting-edge weapons and military technology to the kingdom. This means Saudi Arabia is no longer dependent on US protection. It's building its own security alliances, its own economy, and its own influence. And here's where it gets even more dangerous. MBS is also negotiating oil deals in currencies other than the US dollar. If Saudi Arabia stops trading oil in dollars, the consequences for the American economy would be catastrophic. And that leads us to the most terrifying part of MBS's plan, a move that could bring down the US dollar itself. Breaking free from the US, Saudi Arabia's new strategy. The US dollar isn't just currency, it's the backbone of American power. For decades, the global oil trade was tied to the dollar, keeping the US economy dominant. But now, MBS is threatening to break that system. Saudi Arabia has already started accepting payments in Chinese yuan, euros, and other currencies. If this continues, the petrodollar system, the foundation of America's financial strength, could collapse. This isn't just an economic shift, it's a direct challenge to U.S. global dominance. Washington has used economic influence as its strongest weapon. But if oil stops being traded in dollars, that power fades fast. The Biden administration is watching closely. Sanctions? Political pressure? Maybe. But the problem is, MBS doesn't need the U.S. as much as the U.S. needs him. And if Saudi Arabia fully switches sides and aligns itself with China and Russia, the world as we know it could change forever. Russia, China, and MBS. A dangerous trio? For years, the U.S. assumed Saudi Arabia would always be a loyal partner. But MBS is rewriting the script. He's strengthening ties with China and Russia, two of America's biggest rivals, and Washington is losing control. China is now Saudi Arabia's biggest oil customer, and Beijing is pushing for trade in yuan, not dollars. Meanwhile, Russia is offering advanced military weapons and strategic intelligence. This growing alliance threatens U.S. dominance on multiple fronts. Economy. If China and Russia help Saudi Arabia move away from the dollar, the global financial balance shifts. Military. Russia is providing Saudi Arabia with cutting-edge missile systems and cyber warfare technology. Technology. China's AI firms are embedding deep into Saudi infrastructure, raising serious concerns about global surveillance power. The U.S. is watching helplessly as this alliance grows stronger. And now MBS is preparing his boldest move yet, one that could bring the entire U.S. financial system to its knees. The petrodollar collapse. Is Saudi Arabia abandoning the U.S. dollar? Since the 1970s, the petrodollar system has been the foundation of America's economic strength. Every country that wants oil must buy U.S. dollars first, keeping the American economy dominant. But MBS is threatening to end that system. He's already negotiating oil deals in Chinese yuan, Indian rupees, and even cryptocurrencies. If Saudi Arabia fully ditches the dollar, the consequences could be disastrous for the U.S. Massive inflation. As global demand for the dollar drops, prices in the U.S. could skyrocket. Stock market crash. Wall Street is built on the assumption that oil equals dollars. A change could shake the global markets. End of U.S. financial dominance. Without the petrodollar, America loses its most powerful economic weapon. The White House is in panic mode. Officials are scrambling to stop this from happening, but MBS isn't backing down because he's already building an alternative. The oil war that could reshape the world economy. Oil isn't just energy, it's power. And MBS controls the world's largest reserves. With Russia under sanctions and the U.S. trying to cut reliance on fossil fuels, Saudi Arabia holds the keys to global energy. But instead of playing by the old rules, MBS is making his own. He ignored Biden's request to lower oil prices, choosing instead to cut production, keeping prices high and hurting Western economies. He's striking deals with China and India, shifting Saudi oil away from the U.S. and toward America's biggest competitors. He's investing billions in Russia's energy sector, despite U.S. and European sanctions. MBS is testing how far he can push without retaliation. But energy is only one part of his master plan. His next step? Build a military force so powerful that no one can challenge him. Saudi Arabia's military expansion, more than just defense. For decades, Saudi Arabia relied on U.S. military protection. But MBS doesn't want to depend on anyone anymore. He's spending billions on weapons, building his own defense industry, and signing deals with Russia and China to develop next-generation military technology. His vision? Turn Saudi Arabia into the most powerful military force in the Middle East. Buying advanced fighter jets, drones, and missile systems, not just from the U.S., but from Russia and China as well. Developing AI-powered defense systems, including autonomous drones and cyber warfare capabilities. Expanding Saudi Arabia's nuclear ambitions, sparking fears that the kingdom could secretly be developing nuclear weapons. Washington knows what's happening, but its hands are tied. MBS isn't listening to the U.S. anymore because he's creating his own empire. The covert cyber army, a new form of warfare. Forget tanks and bombs. The next war will be fought with data, algorithms, and cyber attacks. and MBS is preparing for it. Saudi Arabia has poured billions into cybersecurity, AI surveillance, and digital warfare, working with China and Russia to develop cutting-edge tech. Saudi hackers are being trained in cyber espionage, capable of launching attacks on rival nations. AI-powered surveillance is being tested in NEOM with facial recognition, predictive policing, and total data control. Saudi investments in Western tech companies give MBS influence over social media, news, and even election security. This isn't just about protecting Saudi Arabia, it's about controlling information, manipulating economies, and dominating global security. Washington is deeply concerned. If Saudi Arabia's cyber capabilities continue to grow, even the US could be vulnerable. The AI and surveillance plan that scares the West. The US and Europe pride themselves on democracy and personal freedom. But MBS has a different vision, one where technology gives leaders total control over society. Saudi Arabia is creating a surveillance state powered by AI. Every movement, every purchase, and every conversation is tracked in real time. China is helping Saudi Arabia build an internet firewall similar to the Great Firewall of China, which censors online content and blocks foreign influence. NEOM is being designed as a fully AI-controlled city where autonomous policing and digital tracking replace traditional government control. For the West, this is terrifying. If Saudi Arabia perfects this model and exports it to other countries, authoritarian regimes worldwide could gain unprecedented control over their populations. MBS versus the royal family. The internal power struggle. While MBS is reshaping Saudi Arabia's global role, he's also fighting a dangerous battle at home. The Saudi royal family is massive, with thousands of princes, business tycoons, and military leaders, many of whom don't support his vision. But MBS doesn't tolerate opposition. He purged dozens of royal family members in 2017, arresting them in a high-profile crackdown. He seized billions in assets from Saudi elites who opposed him. He rewrote the rules of succession, making sure he remains in power no matter what. This power struggle isn't over. There are whispers of hidden factions within the royal family still waiting for a chance to strike back, and the US is watching closely, because if MBS loses control, the entire Middle East could be thrown into chaos. The assassination attempts no one talks about. MBS's rise to power hasn't been easy. Behind the scenes, multiple assassination attempts have reportedly been made against him. 2018, a mysterious shooting near the royal palace led to speculation that a coup attempt had been thwarted. 2020, Saudi intelligence uncovered a plot to poison him, allegedly linked to rival factions. Ongoing threats. Western intelligence sources believe Iran, extremist groups, and even rogue members of the Saudi elite see MBS as a target. For this reason, his security is on another level. His personal security force rivals a military unit. His homes, palaces, and even his planes are equipped with missile defense systems. He rarely sleeps in the same place twice and uses multiple body doubles to throw off potential attackers. The fact that MBS is still alive shows how carefully he's playing this game. But the threats aren't just from within. His vision for Saudi Arabia is triggering global reactions that could escalate into full-scale conflict. His vision for Islam, a cultural revolution in the making. Saudi Arabia is known for its strict religious laws, but MBS is pushing a controversial reform agenda that is shaking the foundations of Islam in the region. He's allowing entertainment, concerts, and Western influences that were previously banned. He's challenging the power of Saudi religious leaders, making them less influential in politics. He's positioning himself as a global leader of modern Islam. But this is creating powerful enemies. Hardline religious groups, both inside and outside Saudi Arabia, see him as a traitor. Extremist factions are furious, and even within the Saudi government, many are uncomfortable with the speed of these changes. For the West, this seems like progress, but in the Middle East, it's a potential time bomb. If MBS pushes too hard, he could ignite internal rebellion or even trigger extremist attacks within his own borders. Buying influence, the billion-dollar propaganda machine. MBS doesn't just rely on power, he buys influence at an unprecedented scale. His strategy? Control the narrative. He invests billions in Hollywood, news agencies, and tech companies, ensuring positive media coverage worldwide. He funds Western think tanks and universities, shaping how Saudi Arabia is perceived by global elites. He spends millions on social media influencers and online campaigns, drowning out negative news and amplifying his agenda. The goal? Make sure the world sees him as a visionary leader, not a ruthless dictator. And it's working. While past Saudi leaders were seen as outdated and extreme, MBS is being marketed as the reformer prince of the modern era. But behind the carefully crafted PR campaigns, his true plan is unfolding, one that's far more ambitious than anyone realizes. The underground bunkers and secret safe havens. MBS knows his rise to power isn't guaranteed, which is why he's preparing for the worst. Reports suggest that he has multiple underground bunkers and escape routes in case of a crisis. Private bunkers deep in the Saudi desert, stocked with supplies for years. Safe houses in Europe and Asia, ready for emergency evacuations. A floating fortress, a mega yacht designed as an escape base, equipped with state-of-the-art security. Why is he preparing for this? Because he knows that powerful enemies, both inside and outside Saudi Arabia, could try to remove him at any time. This level of preparation suggests one thing. MBS isn't just planning for today, he's preparing for the long game. The hidden projects under the Saudi desert. Beneath the sands of Saudi Arabia, MBS is funding mysterious projects that have world leaders guessing. Some of them are public, like NEOM, but others are top secret and heavily guarded. Underground military research facilities, rumored to be working on drone warfare and AI weaponry. Massive tunnels and infrastructure projects whose real purposes remain classified. Experimental energy research, with Saudi Arabia quietly working on nuclear technology. What exactly is being built? No one knows for sure. But intelligence agencies suspect that MBS is laying the foundation for Saudi Arabia's next transformation, one that could change global power dynamics forever. A new world order? What MBS wants for the future? MBS doesn't just want Saudi Arabia to be powerful. He wants it to be the center of the world. His long-term strategy could redefine global leadership. Oil dominance? He's securing deals that could make Saudi Arabia the world's energy hub, even beyond fossil fuels. Technology dominance? NEOM and his AI partnerships could position Saudi Arabia as the new Silicon Valley. Military dominance? His investments in weapons, cyber warfare, and defense make him less dependent on Western powers. But the ultimate goal? Redefine global leadership. For decades, the world order has been dictated by the US, Europe, and China. But if MBS succeeds, Saudi Arabia could become the new center of global influence, something the West is desperately trying to prevent. And now the final question remains: how will the US and its allies react to his next move? The US, Europe, and the silent fear of his rise. For decades, the US and Europe dictated the rules of global politics. But now MBS is changing the game, and Western leaders are running out of options. Washington has tried diplomatic pressure, economic deals, and even veiled threats to keep Saudi Arabia under its influence. But none of it is working. MBS is too rich, too powerful, and too independent to be controlled. The Biden administration has struggled to keep Saudi Arabia aligned, failing to stop its deepening ties with China and Russia. European leaders are increasingly frustrated as Saudi oil cuts drive energy prices higher. The Pentagon fears that Saudi Arabia could soon be militarily untouchable, making intervention nearly impossible. So what happens next? The West has three choices. 1. Keep trying to negotiate with MBS, knowing he no longer needs them. 2. Isolate Saudi Arabia, risking a massive energy and financial crisis. 3. Take more drastic action, something that could lead to an even bigger global conflict. But here's the scariest part. MBS already knows their options, and he's preparing for each one. And that leads us to the final, most critical question. What's the next move in his master plan? What happens next? Trump's move could change everything. If you think MBS is done shaking the world, think again. His most shocking move may still be ahead. Insiders believe that his next steps could completely upend the balance of power worldwide. Here's what's on the table. A formal alliance with China and Russia, a move that would reshape global politics. A full break from the US dollar, causing chaos in Western financial markets. A nuclear program announcement, instantly making Saudi Arabia a military superpower. A cyber warfare offensive, targeting global economies and political systems. And now a new player is stepping back into the game, Donald Trump. Trump has one of the closest relationships with MBS of any US president in history. He defended Saudi Arabia even in its most controversial moments, secured massive arms deals, and kept the kingdom as a key US ally, even when the rest of Washington turned against it. Now, with the 2024 elections approaching, the real question is, if Trump returns to power, will he embrace MBS's vision or try to control it? Will Trump strike a historic deal with MBS, ensuring Saudi Arabia stays aligned with US interests? Or will he push back against MBS's growing independence, setting the stage for a high-stakes geopolitical showdown? Whatever happens next, one thing is clear. MBS holds more power than ever before, and the next US president may be forced to play by his rules. The world is watching. Is the US ready?